The United States has been leading international efforts to get more humanitarian assistance to Gaza. Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
President Biden's announcement of the temporary port comes as the CIA director is back in the Middle East trying to negotiate a ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S. conducted a new round of airdrops containing humanitarian aid into the war-torn region yesterday. This latest effort delivered thousands of meals and supplies. Our Ramy Inocencio was there in Jordan as they loaded the plane with pallets of food for the war-torn territory. But the window for a ceasefire deal is rapidly closing with just 2 days from the start of Ramadan. Israel has threatened to expand its operations into the southern city of Rafah if a deal is not made by then. CBS News foreign correspondent Chris Livesay is in Tel Aviv. So, Chris, do we have any idea of how long it will take before this pier the president has proposed is actually ready?
Hey, Elaine, that's a very good question. Now, CBS News has been told that pier has to be shipped from Virginia, and it's going to take a long time for it to cross the Atlantic and then cross the Mediterranean and get all the way to the coast off of Gaza. It's going to be at least a matter of weeks. Now, CBS News has also been told that locally in Gaza, there is an effort to construct a causeway that would be quicker. We don't yet know if that's in conjunction with the pier that's being shipped in or if these are two separate things. All we know is that there now appears to be a rush to get some access to this life-saving humanitarian aid. The short answer to your question is not soon enough, because people are literally starving as this conflict transpires. We also have a report that the European Union, as we speak, is shipping over its aid to park a ship right off the coast of the Gaza Strip. It should arrive as early as Sunday. But again, the question of how they're going to offload this life-saving aid without there being a pier that we know of is still unknown. And so a lot of good questions remain unanswered.
I wonder, Chris, how are the president's remarks from the State of the Union last night being received overseas?
You know, there was a little bit of something for everybody. I mean, some of the biggest applause lines that he got was when he held Israelis responsible, the Israeli government responsible for the civilian lives on the ground in Gaza. But then, you know, he also emphasized that Israel had a right to defend itself after the October 7 massacre by Hamas. And he also said some things that kind of slipped under the radar, but that were noticed by Israelis here. For instance, when he talked about ensuring long-term security and stability in the region, he quickly mentioned that he just talked to Saudi Arabia. And this was interpreted as a way of saying that those attempts to normalize relations, you know, bear in mind that just before the October 7 attack, Israel and Saudi Arabia were in the process of normalizing relations with each other. And then ever since then, in the ensuing conflict, those talks have been, at the very least, put on the back burner. Many have wondered if they've completely disappeared. When he mentioned that, when Biden mentioned that he spoke to Saudi Arabia, that was interpreted by many here as being a sign that, okay, those attempts to sideline those talks or to completely destroy them, that they were not successful.
Interesting. All right, and before we let you go, just quickly, is there any chance of a ceasefire deal coming to fruition before the start of Ramadan?
We actually know from 3 separate sources, speaking to CBS News, that CIA Director Bill Burns today is in Doha, Qatar. Qatar, as we know, has been a main conduit for negotiations with Hamas. They have many of their leadership in Qatar. He's there pushing to get this ceasefire deal through that would also, we're told, be in exchange for Israeli hostages that for nearly 5 months have been in Hamas captivity, trying to get that deal through before the start of Ramadan, which historically has been a time of tensions here in the region. It's a time when 2 billion Muslims around the world are in deep, deep solidarity. They're fasting, and just imagine them being in solidarity with all of those people in Gaza right now who literally can't get access to food and water. People are fasting, Muslims are fasting around the world, hungry themselves. It's a very tense time. One analyst today told us it could be a ticking time bomb.
Wow, a dire situation. Chris Livesay. Chris, thank you.